I think there's a good chance to say that most of us are here because of Alex Becker. Vulcan Forged is one of those picks that he dropped during one of his altcoin picks during the bull season, and here I am, finally doing a little bit of a review and seeing what the hell is Vulcan Forged. Because honestly, what I'll say about the name is, it really doesn't sell me. It's kind of dumb, and it almost sounds childish. But when you look into the product, you actually do realize that it kind of fits with it. I just don't know if it's ever going to be a household name. So let's take a look and see if Vulcan Forged has what it takes to moon. Alright guys, now I don't mean to approach this with a lot of skepticism, but I do know that Alex drops a lot of things out there and kind of can go the opposite way because he's a bit of a clickbait artist. He's in marketing, that's his thing. But at the end of the day, I have looked into a lot of things that Alex has mentioned, and there's a number of them that I would still to this day hold in my wallet. Vulcan Forged is one of those that I'm finally getting around to and kind of put off just because of the book cover, if you know what I'm saying. The name just really didn't sell me, and it sounded kind of like a video game that I didn't really want anything to do with. And to be honest, that's not really what it is. Well, it's half of what it is. Vulcan Forged is actually aiming to be a NFT gaming incubator, a development incubator. It's supposed to be a launch pad, a platform for other game developers to build their games on and ultimately utilize the ecosystem in which Vulcan Forge wants to make so that they can benefit from it. They can have an easier form of getting marketing and getting their NFTs in their game off the ground based on the ecosystem that Vulcan Forge hopes to build out. And up to this point, they've actually done not too bad of a job, to be honest. Now, when you do land on their webpage, you really are met with what looks like relatively kiddie versions of games that could be coming out. And yes, they are graphically not superior to a lot of things on the market, but they are the NFT space with the potential for a play to earn. And they are heavily incentivizing people by giving out rewards and offering a lot of staking options for many people inside of that ecosystem. One of the main features of Vulcan Forge is going to be the fact that they're going to be giving back so many of the rewards based on all the staking that they're planning on doing. The staking throughout Vulcan Forge is aimed to be a very large portion of what drives the price of PYR ultimately. It seems as though that's part of one of their larger tactics in getting people to lock up their PYR to create scarcity, therefore supply demand, and PYR goes up. Maybe draws a little bit more attention to people wanting to come into the ecosystem, therefore they land on it, developing their product there. Again, as I mentioned, there's a lot of games it looks like already developed on there. The flagship is obviously Vulcan Verse, I believe. And I'm not even going to look it up because honestly, my review isn't going to take that long. It's really a relatively rudimentary graphics looking metaverse set in mythical times, in Greek times. What else can I say? It's got a very Age of Empires, Age of Mythology feel. You know what I'm saying? It has that, but in a 3D space. It kind of reminds me of some of that old Quake stuff where you had some of those versions where you could play around and you could forge out lands and stuff like that. It's very simple. It looks very simple, but it isn't an NFT-based game. And honestly, the clientele for it is probably going to be people who are just enamored and underground looking to enjoy that kind of space, because ultimately at this point there are games far superior to that when it comes to graphics and probably pure entertainment. Now, the fact that you actually own some of the pieces inside of it, I think is going to be a huge selling point for a lot of people out there, and is probably what's driving the now 20,000 active users on the gaming platform itself. So it could be interesting to see what they can do with this. I think the real enticement here of a play to earn model, not to mention something that people own. A lot of people in the crypto space are really excited about the fact that they own the in-game assets. This could really be something that Vulcan Forge manages to leverage. I think the fact that they've actually gotten out the gate and are making products. They have many products. Now, I've been big on that. I've been looking at a lot of games that end up probably looking to go to mobile because they're easier to develop, they're easier to deploy, and you can start generating money right away. That's kind of one of my big things right now in crypto. We're looking at a lot of these really big games that just are so graphically intense and so ecosystem and economy driven that they just may never get there. Like again, we're looking at Star Atlas, I'm looking at Eucydus Heroes, games that are just so massive that, you know, it's going to take forever to get to a place where they could be. And really, all it would take is Blizzard deciding, hey, all of a sudden we want WoW to be decentralized. We want all of a sudden Blizzard deciding what we want WoW to become blockchain capable, and boom, they would win. They just trump everybody. You know what I mean? Call of Duty. If Activision decided tomorrow that they were going to start making it a play to earn version of that game with microtransactions where they got the revenue, they would win. It's just hands down how it would happen. So they have a finite amount of time to develop these really complex games, in my opinion. So I digress. But going back to Vulcan Forge, yes, it's a small little game that really it's developing quickly. They have products. They have a chess game, they have other card games, which have done very well in the crypto space before. Gods Unchained, I'm thinking of, was a very huge success. And there's a number of games out there that are relatively simplistic in their playing style, but still have giant revenue models. And this is something that I think that they're really going to be leveraging. But we really do need, at this point, to talk about where's the revenue coming from. I think like most incubators, places with marketplaces, any project that has more of an infrastructure to its entire place is really going to be not only a good play in the long term, but also one that makes sense as far as a revenue generating model, right? Places that are just making a game have to understand that generally when you sell games, the main place of getting revenue is from sales of the game or in-game microtransactions. Those are pretty much your only two options when it comes to how do you make money developing this product, right? Other than currently now all the crypto nonsense that we see where people sell all their NFTs and don't really ultimately make a product, therefore rug pulling the entire situation, you have a game that can actually make money. This is the whole point. And I'm on a bit of a tirade right now because I'm seeing more and more games that don't put this at the heart of it. The core is to make money. This is the reality of your product. You need to make money in some way. Now, whether it's decentralized and you end up giving most of that back to the players, as a developer, you need to incentivize your company to grow. Otherwise, you're going to die and there's not going to be a point. Now, you could develop something, let it go, be fully decentralized, move on and go develop something else. Certainly. But in order for it to continue to go, it has to be in a place where it's maybe continually being developed, bugs being removed. It has to be new in-game assets have to be developed. Where is that incentive? You need to be continually making money. And the reality is a lot of these games don't have it. Vulcan Forged, it looks like, are really just going with a play games. If you enjoy it, there's going to be some play to earn model to it. But the ecosystem they're building, they really do plan on utilizing that when it comes to earning money. They've got a marketplace. They have a decentralized exchange for all of their in-game assets. So all the developers who develop on that land are going to be able to exchange their tokens within their Vulcan DEX, which is their little decentralized exchange inside. So they have multiple streams of potential revenue within it. And I would imagine that any developer that builds on that platform is going to have some sort of cut going all the way back to the developers of Vulcan Forge. So realistically, when it comes to a revenue generation model, I really do like the simplicity that they're going for. They have stuff out the gate and they actually are building products that people are playing actively right now. Now, I believe ultimately the PYR rewards, and yes, they have a second token, Lava token, which can generate you rewards without really doing much other than just playing the games. Those aren't sustainable. I mean, the reality of play to earn being with such high rewards for not doing much realistically doesn't seem as though it makes a lot of sense, unless, yes, they are making enough revenue and they can justify distributing that amongst the player base in return for a littler cut down the road as a developer, as long as it sustains their operations. That said, I still feel like what we're being enticed with as far as the decentralized nature, as far as the play to earn economic incentives right now, the money value that we're being excited to play is not going to maintain itself. You're only going to make a lot of money if you're in the top echelon of a lot of these games. Just like in WoW. You can't just casually play WoW and make money off of that game. And yes, you can make money in WoW, Blizzard, World of Warcraft. You can make money because people will buy the game assets from you if you exchange them for them in real world. You can just PayPal them and they'll give you a sword or whatever it is, right? But the only people who are really doing that, who are making money and not paying for game assets, are going to be the ones who really play the game. So Vulcan Forge, in my opinion, is probably going to have the hardest hurdle going to be making those games that people want to continue to play. Now, seeing the simplistic nature of a lot of the games, the rudimentariness of the graphics of their main game, this hopefully will be led again by a cult-like following, I'm imagining, or a massive amount of growth that allows them to continue to develop bigger and better games over time, allowing these little games just to be part of the library ultimately. I really think that will be one of the biggest hurdles for this because, again, they seem to have working platforms. I don't hear a lot of problems from them. A lot of the news facing out there about Vulcan Forge actually seems to be, hey, we got this new stuff coming out. We've got these new games coming on the platform. And they recently did an AMA with the CEO. He seems to be pretty bullish as the opportunities afforded to crypto space and GameFi like them during the bear run is really where they need to buckle down, hunker down on the number of assets they're working on, not go too crazy on new things, work on the things that are currently being developed, make them awesome so when we come out the other side on the bull run, they're ready to rally, they're ready to be seen, and they're ready to really be dominating as one of those higher gamified platforms. Now, we can't really do a full review, and I know this has been a bit more of a rant than really like a deep dive, but I really wanted to talk about some of the like logical conclusions that one comes to when they approach this. Again, we've seen a lot of these models before, and it's pretty straightforward, but I can't go too much further without actually looking at the price action, giving us a little bit of a prediction, and seeing what we think about everything on CoinMarketCap. Well, guys, it's that simple. Here we are at the screens. We're looking at Vulcan Forged PYR. PYR is the ticker for it, so if you're looking for it, that's what we're looking at. It's currently valued at $3.25. And really, in order to get a sense of what that means, we need to look at the market cap and the fully diluted market cap. I like to take them both with a grain of salt because ultimately these circulating supply can be increased. However, as we know, PYR is working heavy on their staking mechanism, which is going to be a real big part of that ecosystem. So we know that they realistically may not get to a massive amount of circulating supply, where we're seeing about 23 million, which is over here on the side, even though it's verified by CoinMarketCap. I always take it with a grain of salt, but that still is not the full amount, which I believe a lot of these will end up being staked. And I know CoinMarketCap doesn't fully do this properly, so we need to, again, take it with a grain of salt. But we can see a valuation that puts it at around 77 million with the circulating market supply. Let's talk about that number. 77 million for a small gaming platform that has, again, simplistic games that it's developed. One of them's chess. I mean, this is why I say simplistic. So one of them is chess. We've got another card-based game. Now, as long as they can develop a heavy revenue model where they're making money and they have relatively low overhead, seeing as they don't need 30,000 developers to make these insane graphical assets related to a lot of these game platforms out there, 77 million, that's very reasonable. That's one of those reasonable prices you get to. Now, could this go much higher? Of course. Could we get into crazy billion-dollar valuations for projects like this? Yes, incubators, platforms with infrastructure and ecosystems, its own internal DEX, its own marketplace, being, again, a platform for other developers, easily we can get into billions of dollars. Now, when we look at those prices, we generally look at those more so on the fully diluted market cap, which if we do look at the all-time highs, when we've clicked on it, we've got here, again, we're down here about 325. We can go look at all-time highs at 40 cents. So let's do the calculator. I was gonna try and riff it off the top of my head, but let's do it real quick. Quick math. It's about 13x. So you're doing a 13x to get back to where we were. Could it get back there? Yes, hands down. They have working products. People are playing their games right now. This is actively a thing and something you need to think about. A lot of these other valuations for companies, we haven't even seen them. They don't have a working product. They don't have any timeline for a working product, and they have billion-dollar valuations. Is that reasonable to go back to that space? Yes, it is, because people got there just based on some sort of rally and just retail sentiment. And we know altcoin space is really driven by that. Now, if we do go to a 45, now if we actually do the math quickly on the calculator and we times 23, I did 23, not 24, times about $45, that puts our market cap with circulating supply at about $1 billion valuation. Again, would really require a revenue model to justify it. However, in crypto, we don't need justification. I'm looking at you, Solana, because things cannot work and have insane market caps, ungodly market caps, and not function very well at all. So, a thing that's actually making money, it has workable games, and is continuing to develop and build. $1 billion is not a hard time. Really, I feel like 45 is honestly a good expectation for it to get to. If we do see this doing well, however, I would see this easily going past that, all right? If it goes into the next bull run, we see everything launching up higher, it could easily surpass that. Now, it is not financial advice, and obviously it's kind of a pick and stab in the dark. I do feel like it's got a number of hurdles to go over, but I don't think that these are gonna be deal breakers. As I mentioned a minute ago, we've seen so many other projects that don't have working products, that don't do much, and they're worth billions and billions of dollars. Gala Games is one I'll point to as a sort of clone of this asset. It has a very similar infrastructure model. Now, the developers behind it have a larger product. They have higher graphical quality games coming out of their platform studio, but it still doesn't mean that there isn't a place for a smaller developer such as this. It's going to be that incubation program potentially for a lot of small indie developers. And there's going to be a time and a place because they won't have the revenue models that are going to be enticing to a really big platform developer like Gala Games. Vulcan Forge might be just the home for those smaller indie developers to really get their feet wet, start building games, and maybe one day they can land on Gala Games. I do like what Vulcan Forge has to offer at its core. I do think there's a time and a place for them, like I said, for that indie developer. I think there's going to be a lot of games that will want to come out here and will be just the perfect place for a lot of people to play at a very cheap price point, maybe having fun in a play-to-earn model or potential play-to-earn model, very cheap entry point where they can have a little bit of fun and hopefully see Vulcan Forge grow into something that isn't a household name, would be a name known amongst gamers, right? I don't ever see this necessarily, at least right now, I don't see this being a household name. And I want to stress that. Right now, I don't see this being a household game, but as a very small indie studio and the speed at which developing on the blockchain can happen, it could one day. So I don't want to put it out of the race and I don't want to give it a hard time. But at this point right now, does have a little bit of work to go, but it's got a lot more going for it than a lot of other games out there. So if you are interested in this altcoin pick and you really do like the game style they're going for, then it might be something to put in your bag. I'm probably personally not going to when I can just buy Gala games, because I feel like they're gonna be the household name. They're gonna be the name that you're gonna see on your phone. They're the name that people are gonna know who play all across the world. Vulcan Forge is still one of those small picks that I think ultimately could be a little bit of a surprise down the road, and it's very interesting. I'm kind of glad I came across it. I wanted to give it a hard time, and I did judge it by its cover, but you shouldn't do that. You should take a better look at it. This is the point where if you found any value out of this, which I highly doubt, then you know what to do. Maybe even entertainment. Let's say entertainment. If you got entertained by this, then you know what to do. Like, subscribe. They do help the channel, and I appreciate it. Again, I don't know how many people are talking about Vulcan Forge who aren't hyping it without actually talking about the reality of the situation. So if you appreciate that, you know what to do. This is also where I remind everybody that I love to interact with the community. So leave your comments down below. What do you think? Did you think I got this right? Do you think I got it wrong? Do you think there's more about Vulcan Forge that I missed? Or do you really think that it's got awesome games and it's gonna be the next Gala games, right? So tell me, leave those down below. I'm very active in the community and I love hearing your perspective, because that's actually ultimately more important, right? Like, I'm just one guy screaming on YouTube. You're the community and you're the voice, right? So let's bring those comments to the table. Obviously, guys, nothing here is financial advice. Remember, it's just an opinion, and I'll see you in the next video.